rankings in the 2021 class. Half of the rankings in the top 10 are black players.
Yeah. Yeah.
So and if you're looking at the draft, it's the same way.
And that's a remarkable turn of fortune that I think has started to happen, that there's a lot of ways you can package baseball. And I think that we're all privy to the way that a lot of people talk about it. Hey, go get that baseball money. You know what I'm saying? Hey, that's guaranteed. That football, you don't know if that's going to last and that. But there's a lot more to it than that, though, right? And I think that the thing that really stands out to me, it's a two-pronged thing. When I watched the NFL last week, we were one quarterback away from the entire afternoon slate, Sunday night and Monday being Monday. Who played Monday last week? Can't remember. Yes, Monday as well, being all black quarterbacks. That would have taken a year to fill out, if we would have done it even 2-3 seasons ago. But now we're starting to have that turn of fortune some. However, in baseball, there's still some things that stand out about the sport that really raise an eyebrow for me, to say the least. Namely, the lack of black pitchers. Namely, the lack of black catchers. Try to find an amazing black third baseman, not just right now, but go back 30, 40 years. You're going to almost have to go to Bill Matlock, Harry Pendleton, guys like that. It's few and far between. Charlie Hayes, whose son is playing for the Pirates now and had a pretty damn good year himself too, is going to be a star in this game. But I say all of that to say there's a huge inequity in the opportunity that's put out for African Americans to play positions like pitcher, like catcher, and things like that. So as y'all are going around on the circuit and seeing things like that, are you encouraged by not just the spread of black talent that's coming around and being at all positions, but being in roles like pitcher and being behind the plate and having other things like that?
Yeah, as far as like the black talent at the youth level for pitchers and catchers, there's a lot of them in my class, at least. Like we got Ian Moeller, #1 catcher in the country. We got Harry Ford. He's a top 5 rounder this year. And we got Andreas Lewis, who's another one of those guys that are catch position that are black. Pitchers, there's not many black pitchers like in the major leagues. Really, I'm sure you can name all on the finger that are starting pitchers in the MLB that are black. But you see guys coming up like McKenzie from Cleveland, who's putting on the show. You see guys like Stroman, obviously, who's going to bring that flair and that African culture towards the game. You got Tim Anderson, obviously, who's basically putting the culture of baseball on his back and carrying it right now. So, I mean, as far as like a lot of people like to say baseball is boring, but the game is starting to change and that flair is starting to sort of come into the game.
I've been encouraged. I'm glad you bring up Tim Anderson. I've been encouraged by the fact that it would almost be a crime for him not to be a top 5 MVP guy this year.
Yeah.
He came within inches of being a back-to-back batting champion. Something that we haven't had since, it's been a long time since we had that, and especially being an African-American player at that. But, Christian, we talked about this before, about how the moment of this year has also put African-American players in a different light. But, I feel like still, even at this time, their voices aren't heard as much as the ones that you hear from the NBA and that you hear in the NFL and whatnot. But all the while, they've been some of the loudest ones that have been out there. So for you coming into the game and, being at the level that you're at right now, what's it like to be somebody that people are looking to and you have something to say, about that, but, just living the life that every black man is at this time and balancing that responsibility with what you're doing on the field as well?
So, try to make sure you put the right image out there and be the best possible model you can be. You want to use your platform as well to get the message across, and you as a black man, I feel like you're obligated to do that as far as to put up your message or how you feel about everything going on. I know a lot of people that are kind of like quiet about it, don't want to really talk about it, tap dance around it because they feel like they're going to get criticized about it or crucified by scouts or whatever. But I feel like that's just a sacrifice we have to make as far as being black men in America, and really how much worse could it get?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, at this point, if you've got a platform, whatever it is you can stand on, let your voice come from the top of it. And I think that because you see people like Tim Anderson and people like Jack Flaherty, people like Josh Bell, Amir Garrett, who is most certainly not apologizing for anything that he puts out there, and I love it. Jason Hayward, Dexter Fowler walking off, before the game, getting late scratches when the Bucks did their protest, called off the game there. Baseball, I'll be honest, you said the thing you said earlier about Major League Baseball not promoting it itself as well. Baseball was the sport I was the most worried about as you were starting to see some of these protests and things go out there, because I said baseball can't blow this moment, because I see it as being an opportunity for people to look at the sport in a way that maybe they haven't in a long time. And, you have, there's moments right now we just haven't had presented. Chris, we're just talking about the 90s, and talking about what things looked like. I mean, you even delved into the 60s and 70s when, it was a whole different world for African Americans in the game. And it was a time when the players would say what they needed to say. You had your Frank Robinson, who anybody that's not well versed on Frank Robinson, please do it, because that's literally the history of what that looks like. I'll tell y'all a story. I probably 5-6 years ago or so, I was at the Negro League Baseball Museum in Kansas City, and they had a panel with Frank Robinson, with Hank Aaron, and Dave Winfield was the moderator. The question I asked was, what do you think that baseball could do better to get more African Americans involved in it? He said you could put it in front of them, give them the opportunity to play, make it happen. Because my experience growing up is that you get to a certain level and you start seeing less of us. You could always play, in the city leagues and things like that. You can stay there forever, but you have to leave that to go to another place. So, Chris, as you were starting to take the journey with Christian and the things that he was doing and seeing some of the levels and the players that were there, what's that experience like when you start to just get into that other world so early? And Christian, I think that's a question for you as well. You start to get into that world so early where it's not just you're leaving away from that and having to balance that, being maybe the exception just due to the color of your skin.
Yeah, like growing up, like when I was younger, I was always on all black teams, and as I got better, I was on obviously all white teams, and as I got even better and I moved down, started playing down south on the national level, there's a lot more of us than you would ever think. Like, there's a lot more at the highest level than you think there is. And that was kind of comforting to see and to have around. There's not many of us in St. Louis, but down south, there's a lot more.
I think a lot of it, honestly, is it's a regional thing. I mean, obviously we're from St. Louis. Anybody from St. Louis understands what those barriers look like. They understand kind of, what our people's struggle have been here in this town. And the reality is that, baseball is not an attractive sport that the last generation. So honestly, the generation right before us, Matt, those parents didn't hold on to that tradition like some of their parents and their parents and so on. Because at one point, baseball was the sport for black people. If you look, you mentioned the Negro Leagues.